and that we're not trying to enforce too much on what we want them to read. And this is really because we want them to read something that they're going to enjoy. And if I've got a student who doesn't enjoy a romantic genre of writing, and I'm trying to get them to read Romeo and Juliet, they're probably not going to enjoy that or engage with it very well. So I want to make sure that they have the choice of what they read to ensure that they are going to read. And then the last key point is that learners read as much as possible, and we're going to have a look throughout the rest of the session on how we can try and get our learners to read as much as possible. So in order to do that, we need to think about how we can overcome the challenges that are presented to us through extensive reading. I can see someone's got a question in the Q&A, so I'm going to address the questions at the end just to let everybody know. So, okay, so what stops us from reading? So often when I did this session face-to-face, teachers would come up to me at the end and they say, oh, I totally understand the benefits of extensive reading, but the problem I have is just getting my students just to pick up a book. That's one of the biggest challenges for me. And so this isn't just a problem for our learners. I think it's a problem for many people. I have many friends who just say they don't like reading and choose not to read in their spare time. And me personally, throughout lockdown, I really enjoyed reading before, and I'd be part of book clubs. But during the last year, I found it really hard to engage with reading. I think this is a problem that's affected many people. But I want to ask you guys, what do you think are some common problems that stop people from reading or stop our learners from reading? If you just pop your responses into the chat box. So Liam's put lack of time. Yep, definitely. That's something that we hear a lot of, is I don't have time to read. Michelle says the same, time. Liam, difficulty to focus for long. Okay. Sadrine, they think it takes too long. Yeah. Preferring social media and smartphones. Good. When we're tired, yes, it can be difficult to focus when we're tired. I think that's linguistic insecurity. Yeah. I guess that's if you're reading in a language that's not your mother tongue. Uninteresting content. Yeah. Courtney says, I always start something, then leave it for a bit. It's hard to pick it up again. Yeah, me too, Courtney. I think I've got 3 books next to my bed, which I've started and have not finished. I don't think I've even got halfway. Other things to do, which is like watching movies, and it's easier. Yeah, reading is active, isn't it? If we're just watching a movie, it's very passive. It's much easier. Angelique says books are not popular. They want interactive books. Interesting. Sandrine talks about distractions. Laura, just remember when they could read instead of watching TV. Yeah, maybe we're not even thinking, oh, why don't I read this book I've got? Lack of familiarity to reading. That's interesting. And Liam, you can't do it with other people. Interesting. Okay, I like that. Thanks everybody for your feedback. So yeah, I've picked out a few areas which sort of touch on what a lot of you have said already. So lack of time is definitely something that I hear a lot of. The social media distractions, this came up in the list. I read something interesting recently that in the first quarter of 2020, the popular streaming service Netflix had a record 15.77 million new subscribers. That's quite a staggering figure, I think you'll agree. So yes, we've got movies and box sets at our fingertips. It's very easy to just sit on the sofa, isn't it, and watch those. And then the streaming services, so yeah, talking about Netflix there. Nothing I'm interested in, that came up in the chat, so uninterested in the content. And then I've put Headspace down. And what I mean by Headspace, and I think someone touched on it when they said not even thinking about reading and instead just watching the TV. It's being able to maybe take yourself out of maybe a routine that you've got into, or just put yourself into a situation where you feel like you have the time and the comfort and the ease to read without thinking, oh, but I've got to do this and I've got to do that, and oh, now I'm tired and I don't want to do anything. So Headspace is something we're going to talk more about later. So we're going to go through these 5 sections and think about how we can debunk them or how we can overcome these. And as I go through these 5, I'm going to be referring quite heavily to an article I read written by a man called Neil Pasricha. He wrote for the Harvard Business Review, and it's an article titled 8 Ways to Read the Books You Wish You Had Time For. And again, there'll be a link to this article at the end of the session. And what really drew me into Neil's article was in the opening paragraph, he talked about how he went from reading about 5 books a year to 100 books a year, which is quite a large increase. So he shares his insights, and as I said, there'll be a link to this article at the end. But I really drew on his information and his insights a lot when I went through these common problems and challenges that we've all managed to identify that stop us from reading. So lack of time is, something which comes up a lot, and I think that's probably the biggest one that we mentioned in the chat box just now. But one thing that Neil mentions in this article is that actually we spend so much time absorbing words, text, content nowadays. In fact, there was a study conducted at a university, California, I think it was, and they've realized that we're now consuming about 100,000 words on a daily basis, which is way beyond any sort of information and knowledge intake that we had before. And we do this through many different means and modes, whether this is emails or texts, possibly news alerts, reading things in the palm of our hand from our phone. So I don't think it's that there's this lack of time for reading. I think maybe it's just thinking about where we dedicate our reading time. And so we can kind of debunk this as an idea. And this really sort of leads on quite nicely into the next section, which is social media distractions. And this is something which came up before. And I think it's far too easy to get lost in a rabbit hole in Twitter or read people's posts on Facebook than it is to just put the phone down, go and pick up a book and read that instead. So I think a lot of people spend time on social media. So Neil talks about different approaches you can take to try and reduce this and reduce these distractions. So one thing he says is that you can move apps, and by this he means moving apps off your main screen on your phone and putting them sort of somewhere else within your phone. Or you could remove the apps altogether. I am on Facebook, but I do not have a Facebook app on my phone. And so it's not there, for me to easily get onto. If you do have apps on your phone for social media, one step you can do, or encourage your learners to do, is to turn off their social media notifications. So if you've got your phone and suddenly ping, a notification comes up, someone's tweeted something or someone's liked something on your Instagram, the chances are you're probably going to dive right into it then and there and see what it's about, instead of putting it to one side and maybe dedicating a little bit of time later in the day for you to do your social media updates. Neil also recommends that you unfollow news sites. We definitely live in an age where news is popping up constantly all around us. And it's any news and all news that is being presented to us 24 hours a day. So that can be a massive distraction, and also can really interfere with our headspace that we'll be talking about later. And then the other thing, if your phone is too much of a distraction or social media is too much of a distraction, then just don't read on your phone. I know that some people, they want to be able to access ebooks off of their phone. The problem with that is it's so easy, isn't it, to read for a bit and then think, oh, I'm just going to go and check my emails, or I'm just going to go and send a WhatsApp message to someone. So yes, it can be a real distraction. Liam said you could also just put your phone on silent or aeroplane mode, or turn it off or leave it in another room. Yes, that's true. And this is another thing that Neil says in the article, actually, is he talks about how the charger for his phone is down in the basement of where he lives. So if his phone is dying, the battery's running out, it takes effort to go down to the basement to charge it up again. So he might end up just not bothering. And then, as you say, Liam, then you just don't have the phone there. You sort of have it off. Michelle said, I heard that changing the screen to monochrome helps. Interesting. Okay. Liam, yes, trust the human's laziness. Exactly. But you need to play into our laziness. Wonderful. Okay, so the next slide talks about streaming services. So I mentioned Netflix as a popular streaming service. So things that we can do if we, do want to watch a movie is we could put the subtitles on. And, I used to really enjoy watching international movies. And when I would be trying to learn some French, I would watch French movies and I put the subtitles on. This is something that I would always advise for my learners as well. As homework, watch a movie, put the subtitles on. Here, you're finding a balance of, having that relaxation of just putting on a film, but then also being a bit more active with watching the film by having to read the subtitles. Another thing you could do if your students are going to be, maybe watching a TV show or watching a movie, is you can get them to do follow-up activities using the target language. And one of these activities that I remember doing myself when I was in high school studying English was to compare the film of Romeo and Juliet to the book. So we were studying Shakespeare and we were given the book to read, and we also spent time watching one of the latest adaptations of the film. And that was a nice kind of simple activity to set up. And again, you feel like, well, I did anyway at the time, but like being able to watch the film was somewhat of a reward when, the book for me, I wasn't that engaged with. So we can cross off streaming services from our challenge. The next one, nothing I'm interested in. So here we've got, our student very bored reading a book. I'm not interested in this. And we spoke earlier about, it's important to make sure that our learners have choice and can choose something that they enjoy and that they're interested in. But sometimes we have to kind of nudge our learners to get them interested in something. So there's a few different approaches which sort of incorporate that media content that I think people really like to engage with nowadays. So the first one is called Booktube. Does anyone have any guesses what Booktube is, or has anyone come across Booktube? Any ideas? Think about the name. Tube. What do you think that might be relating to? YouTube! Yes, thank you, Sadrine. Thank you. So, books you can read online on YouTube. That's a very good guess. Eunice, book reviews. Yes, very good. Well done. So, Booktube is kind of like a movement that I learned about a couple of years ago, where people have their own YouTube channels and they're kind of like book critics. And what they do, what they put more emphasis on is recommending books. So they talk about maybe a latest novel or book that they've read, and what they thought of the book, and how much they enjoyed it. And they sort of say, if you really enjoy Harry Potter, then I really recommend this book for you. You'll really enjoy it, and the reasons why. Without it being too much of a spoiler as to what the story's about. But I encourage you to take a look at Booktube. There's many people who have Booktube channels and talk very passionately about the books they've been reading, and it's quite inspiring. And if you can find someone on Booktube who has the same taste and genre as you, then it's a really great way for you to be introduced to new books and new stories, and maybe new authors who you weren't aware of. And again, if you're really not sure what I should be reading, there's some really good podcasts out there which tell you what you should be reading. So here's one, a link to one called Modern Mrs. Darcy, and it's called What Should I Read Next? And it's just a series of podcasts suggesting what you can read if you're interested in X, Y, or Z. What I really like about Booktube and podcasts are these are things that we can get our students to recreate as activities and exercises. So if you've got students who maybe at first aren't that interested in the idea of reading, if we can make more of a project out of it, for example, putting them into groups, getting them to agree on maybe a genre of story that they want to focus on, and then delivering or creating a Booktube video to promote that genre and any books related to that genre. You can then extend on that by getting them to read the books within that genre, and to deliver a short sort of feedback or summary on what the stories were about. And again, you could do this with podcasts as well. Podcasts might be easier to set up. Your students don't have to worry about having the ability to record themselves on a video. If they've got a mobile phone, which I'm sure they all have, they can use their video record function to record a podcast series. So there's a few ideas there. And lastly, I want to talk about Headspace. So as I said earlier, it's very important to ensure that you're in a good environment that's conducive to being able to sort of sit down and peacefully read a book. I don't know about you, but for me, I can't read if I've got the radio on or the TV's on, or if I'm in a very noisy cafe. Not that I've been in a cafe for a while, but these things for me are really distracting. So I think it's really important to understand what space you need to be in if you're going to be able to sit down and read. So Neil, the author of 8 Ways to Read the Books You Wish You Had Time For, he talks about surrounding yourself in a world of books, and he talks about how in his home he's just got books out everywhere, whether they're sort of photo books on the coffee table, or they're books next to where maybe the TV is, books on shelves, books. So the more books you've got around you, the chances are maybe higher that you're going to pick one up and have a read of it. Again, talking about having that peace and also having that comfort, and think about, your schools that you work at. Do you have place where learners can go if they want to sit down and read a book? Do you have a library? Do you have a book room for your learners? Think about how you can create a space, even if it's just using a classroom and, when the classroom is vacant or if it's a break time, making that classroom a place where learners can go and sit down and read if they want to. I think it's also important to think about making reading achievable in the sense that it can be a bit daunting to think, oh, I've got this really large book to read. It can be a little bit intimidating. And whilst extensive reading is trying to promote this idea of reading larger and longer texts, that could be in the form of maybe an article, maybe a magazine article. There's some really interesting magazines out there which you will have articles on all manner of different things. New Scientist, Time magazine, The Economist. These can provide some really sort of interesting discussion points as well, so you can really sort of tie these into your lessons. I can see Courtney's put in the chat box to have a few books on a desk or table in your classroom. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea, Courtney. Having books in a classroom, really makes it feel like you're in a learning environment as well. How it puts the learner into that headspace. So yes, so we can move on from Headspace. Now we've thought of ways that we can overcome any challenges presented here. So now let's have a look at extensive reading in practice. So I just give you a second to read this quote. There are many studies that show the positive relationships between extensive reading and other areas of learning, in particular language acquisition, which bodes really well for us as language teachers. So there's a lot of value there. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of studies that I've come across, and again there will be links to these at the end of the session. So one particular study that I read about recently was looking at the long and short-term effects that reading a novel can have on your brain connectivity. And this study showed that reading a bit of a novel each night and having this exposure to regular reading really had a positive effect on the area of the brain that was receptive for language. So this for me was really interesting, having been a language teacher, but also interested in learning languages myself. And this doesn't necessarily have to be, reading a novel in a language that's not your native tongue. This is just the idea of reading. So this is a positive effect, possibly on sort of language learning without necessarily having to be reading in the language that you are learning. Another study that I read about, which was showing the support for vocabulary acquisition. It's by a woman called Maria Pigada and a man called Norbert Schmidt. They're from the University of Nottingham. And they conducted this study on vocabulary acquisition and extensive reading, and they concluded that with extensive reading, it not only had a positive effect on students' ability to read, but also it had positive effects on their spelling, positive effects on their meaning and understanding of grammatical knowledge. So extensive reading doesn't just improve reading and the vocabulary, but it also really supports other skills and systems as well. So with all these positive effects that come from extensive reading, Why not incorporate extensive reading into your classes more? So I'm going to share with you an exercise. This has been taken from the Oxford University Press Global ELT blog. This is by a man called Nigel Cowell, and it's called 5 Smart Tips for Teaching Grammar Through Extensive Reading. And again, there will be a link to this at the end of the session. So Nigel talks about extensive reading and how when students, are reading, they can think about maybe analysing the vocabulary either at the time of reading or as a kind of reflective activity. So if they come across a noun, they can ask themselves, is it countable or uncountable? What verb goes with it? If they come across a verb, they can ask, is it transitive or intransitive? What prepositions go with it? Or what kinds of nouns are its subject? So these are many different questions that students can use to analyse the text. And you might not want to cover all of this, it's quite a lot. But maybe whilst they're reading, you want them to build up more awareness of how the nouns work in writing. We can also, before we've even opened up a book, use the front cover or use any pictures and images associated with the book to really engage our learners and draw them in. I'm going to share an activity with you, which is really great for those students of ours who we struggle to get them to even pick up a book. So if you have a look at the image here, this is the front cover of the Jane Eyre graded reader from Oxford Bookworms. And I want you to tell me in the chat box, do you think that this woman is happy? And why or why not? Pop your answers in the chat box. So Laura, yes, she's half smiling. Okay, yeah, she's got a little kind of... Cecile, she doesn't look happy, more thoughtful. Okay, Laura looks serene. Eve, happy but quite shy. Why do you say that, Eve? She looks thoughtful, doesn't necessarily have to be about happiness, okay? Christelle, she seems to be daydreaming. Sandrine, she looks nostalgic. Pensive. Sandrine not really seems to be expecting something or someone, looks thoughtful. She's sad, maybe. Happy, she looks calm and collected. Dreaming, she looks very serious and thoughtful. She's preparing for a disaster. Eunice, a bit lonely. Sophie, focused. Fantastic. Absent-minded. Yes, maybe. Did I leave the gas on? Fantastic. So already we've got so many different ideas about who this person is and who this character is. Okay, now I want you to tell me, what type of life do you think she has? A boring life? Why, Christelle? Why do you think that? Nathalie says she belongs to the upper class. Liam, sad. She seems well-to-do. Liam, not the one she'd like. That's a very interesting response, Liam. Sophie, privileged but boring. Dominique, a very traditional life, married and children. Larissa, she's limited by social rules and expectation. Janine, sheltered. Cecile, she seems to have a nice life money-wise, but probably boring. Interesting. Natalie thinks frustrated. Sandrine, led by conventions she hates. Christelle, she's on her own. So an independent lifestyle. Interesting. Liam, yes, when you look at her clothes, she has to be limited by conventions. Okay, so we're really picking up now on what she's wearing and how that might dictate the type of life that she's living. Eunice, maybe she's thinking of what to do with her life. Yes, maybe she wants to change her life. In harmony with nature. Nice. So again, so many different responses there. Okay, a last one. What might she be thinking? What are those noises in the attic? Shall I leave? I'd like to be somewhere else. Crystal, if only I could have a different life. What should my next step to get out of here? How beautiful nature is. Michelle, Courtney beat you to it. She's learned but limited and desiring to be liberated. Cecile, I should run away. Oh, that would make a good story, wouldn't it? A dream she had. Interesting. Okay. So we've generated so many ideas and so many questions just by analysing the front cover of this book. And this is quite a simple front cover that I pulled out for this exercise. I don't know about you, but I want to know about this woman now. I want to know what kind of life she's living, and is she happy or is she not? And where is her life going to take her? So how am I going to do this, guys? How am I going to find out about Jane Eyre? We can tell you've read the book. I'm actually not. You've read the book, yes. You are all cheating. Driving the book. Yes, exactly. Well, read the book. Exactly. I'm going to have to read the book to find out. So this is an activity you can do to really engage your students, get them interested in the book before they've even opened the front page. There's also additional activities that come with our graded readers. So here's an example here. This is Sherlock Holmes, The Blue Diamonds. And these activities, which come with our graded readers, they present themselves in the form of before reading, while reading, and after reading activities. So here's an exercise that's before reading. These are some of the people in the story, some of the characters, and you have to think about what work they do. So you've obviously got the visuals there to assist you, but again, it sort of creates this discussion point before you've even started reading the book. And then if you want to learn more about these characters, well, you're going to have to read the story to find out. So these activities, these are interspersed throughout all our graded readers. We've also got lots of activities on our website. So if you go to Oxford Teachers Club, we've got interactive level tests and worksheets that can support you with reading. And what's nice about these is they just add a little bit more scaffolding to your extensive reading sessions with your learners. So whilst we want our learners to just go away and read some more, it can really help to have these activities to get them just to check in and make sure that they're keeping on track with their reading. Extensive Reading is a book that I would highly recommend. Richard Day is one of the lead authors on it. He's kind of the head honcho when it comes to extensive reading. And Courtney is going to be sharing a link in the chat box, which will take you to our Oxford Teachers Club page where you can access a free chapter from this book, Extensive Reading. And there's lots of sort of practical tips and exercises. So, for example, the one where we analysed the front cover, that was an exercise that I took from this book, Extensive Reading. So, yes, there's lots of tips, lots of exercises, lots of activities that you can do with your students to really help engage them with their extensive reading. So yes, really recommend this as a book, but do head to the Oxford Teachers Club to access your free chapter. So just to summarise, so we've had a look at what we mean by extensive reading. how we overcome the challenges. Something funny has gone on with my slide here. And how to achieve extensive reading. And I can see there are a few questions in the question box. So I'm going to bring them up now and go through these with you guys. So Janine's asked, what do you do if your student chooses a book that is above their reading level? That's a good question, Janine. So I think your student is soon going to find out that it's above their reading level, and they'll soon be put off with wanting to read it. What I would recommend is, if you're going to the Oxford Teachers Club, there are guides on there which can help your learners establish what level they'll be at. One lovely thing about our graded readers is we have so many available across all levels from beginner to advanced. So it's very, very likely that once your student has established what level they are at reading, and remember as well that just because they're an intermediate student, generally speaking, it doesn't mean that that's necessarily their reading level. Once they've established what level they are, using our website resources as support, they can then have a look at the catalogue. Courtney will be able to share a link to the catalogue and see all the different books that are available to them. But yes, they won't get very far. If it's above their reading level, they're just going to struggle, they won't understand it, and they'll soon put the book down and won't want to read it anymore. So maybe try and get in there beforehand, before they choose a book, so you can then let them know, okay, well, this is your level, and so these are the books that you want to be aiming for. Okay. Sandrine, thank you. So how can we convince our students to stop the social media distractions? I can do it quite easily, but it's not the same for my students. Yes, Sandrine, it's a very good question. And I'm not going to lie to you, I think it will be a challenge. I think one of the reasons why it's important to have these activities that support extensive reading is it becomes something that our students have to do. And the only way they can achieve these activities is to complete the reading. So I think the more that we can do as teachers to really, understand what kind of genres our students are interested in, and work our reading and our materials around that, will hopefully lead to our learners just enjoying the reading and then wanting to naturally take it up more. And then also, really just constantly making our learners aware of the wealth of reading and articles and books and whatnot that's out there in the world for them to dive into and explore. But I think the key thing is finding out what they enjoy. If you don't know what your students enjoy, just ask them. Do a survey, and it doesn't have to be as straightforward a question as what books do you enjoy reading. Present them with a list of different genres, crime, romance, action, murder mystery, and get them to go through the list and put a little tick next to the ones that they enjoy. But yes, it is a challenge to try and stop the social media distractions. But I think through a lot of sort of nudging, you can try and get your students to go towards the reading. And hopefully, after some time, that's where they will naturally go. Janine, are your graded readers aimed at Anglophone children or ESL learners? They are aimed at ESL learners. So the graded readers are graded. That being said, my nephews whose native tongue is English, when they were younger, they really enjoyed reading some of the primary books, but they are designed for second language learners. Okay, so I'm just going to check the chat box. I can see that's been flashing. Liam, let them try anyway. I'm not sure what that was in relation to, Liam. Courtney's going to send through the relevant links.
You got the last question here in the discussion box. Reading for pure pleasure, or should we check what our students read? In the discussion
Okay,
box.
thank you, Courtney. Yes, I can see. Reading for pure pleasure, or should we check what our students read? I think by this question, you're asking, should we dictate what our students are reading? I understand that in a lot of school setups, you might be presented with a reading list, which students have to go through and read. At least that was the setup when I was studying at school. And some books I did enjoy and some books I didn't enjoy, but I didn't really have much choice in them. I think as much as you can, you want to encourage your students to read for pleasure. It's with this enjoyment that really supports the ethos behind extensive reading. And if your students are reading for pleasure, then find out what they are reading and what they enjoy. Liam was about when the material they choose is above their level. Yeah, get them to try it anyway. Thanks, Liam. No worries about the keyboard layout. Yes, so yeah, in response to the question from earlier, yeah, just get them to try reading it. And if it's above their level, then at least they've given it a go. Huh? Natalie, I've just finished a reading with my class, The Hounds of Baskervilles. They all enjoyed it. Yeah, Sherlock Holmes is a very popular one. Quite often when I speak with teachers, the most popular books are Sherlock Holmes and Harry Potter. Harry Potter is another big one. I've not read any Sherlock Holmes or any Harry Potter, so maybe I should. Liam, Harry Potter is coming back. Interesting. Yeah, I know. It's awful, isn't it? It's embarrassing. Um, Natalie, we could focus on vocabulary and past tenses. Great idea, Natalie. Yeah, now that they've read the book, think about activities you can do to exploit that. Or Natalie, why don't you get them to do their own Booktube video about the story, and then they can talk about what they enjoyed and recommend it for other people. And Courtney said, for those of you with bilingual children, they're a great idea as well. My 9-year-old loves readers. Great. Natalie, Diary of a Wimpy Kid is nice too. Yeah, that is a good reader. That's a good story to go with. Natalie, good idea. They wrote their own story. Wow, okay. Sadri, my students read Deadly Jobs and we're really interested in it. Wow, that sounds like Horrid Histories. I'm not sure if anyone's familiar with the Horrid Histories series. They were very popular in the UK. Courtney's asked, is anybody else using readers already? Yeah, it's a really good question. Is there anyone here who is using graded readers? Sometimes I meet teachers and or I've even had students who have said to me, I want to read a book. What book can I read? And they say, I want to read an English book. And by this, they mean a book that has been written without the language being graded or adjusted. So my response always is, when you're learning a language, whatever the language is, you need to really grade the readers to make it accessible. It's too much to just dive into a native level written text or book or article, whatever it is. By grading it, it's been graded to the CEFR, the Common European Framework for Reference. So if you know what level your learners are, then you can ensure that you're providing them with a reading book that is matched to that level. which means they'll be able to read it. There's nothing more demotivating than having a book that you don't understand because it's too difficult to read. Okay, Liam said, the story they're reading is open-ended. Maybe they can imagine what could happen next. Yes, that's a great activity. Ocean says, I use readers, but not from OUP yet. I like that you put yet. Janine, I've got primary readers, Oxford Reading Tree, but not using them extensively yet. The students take them home to read. That's fantastic. That's good if they're taking them home and reading them. Stuart, my school does for the holiday classes. Owl Hall for Halloween, for example. Great. Michelle, is there a benefit to reading to the children as opposed to making them read the book themselves? That's a really good question, Michelle. I know that there are lots of studies out there that talk about the benefits of having a book read to you. I guess the difference between having a book read to you and reading it yourself means that all those studies which show, the improvement of your spelling or your grammatical knowledge possibly won't be enhanced if you're having a book read to you, because you're not seeing how words are spelled or how they're structured. But on the flip side of that, it's going to improve your listening skills. So there's probably, pros that you can take from that. Yeah, and besides, you could also be distracted. Yes, you could be, couldn't you? Fantastic. Guys, it's been really lovely engaging with you over this subject. I feel like I should make myself another cup of tea and we could have a whole hour of talking about extensive reading. But I don't have an hour. And you've got the wonderful Andy coming up next to present for you. But yeah, I just want to leave by saying, thank you for engaging. Thank you for your feedback. I hope that this session has been useful. I hope it's given you some food for thought. And as I said, I'm sharing links at the end. Here are all my links. And I've also saved this presentation as a PDF. So Courtney can share that with you if you so wish.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. I'm gonna take over again.
Super. Thanks, Courtney.
Yep. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
And I'm back. So this is the break time. Andy is set to start at I believe 3 o'clock. No, what did I say? I've got it written here. 3:15, excuse me. So we do have a break time. I will be here during this time if you have any questions or want to continue talking while we're waiting for Andy. Or you could also hop away and take care of business if you need to. But if you do want to continue chatting, I am here for you. All right, thank you. We'll be back in a little bit. Please remember to put your comments in the discussion box and your questions in the question box, please. Did you have something to say, Mr. Guillaume?
No break for you?
Nah. I'm happy to stay if people are around.
Quand on se parle comme ça, tout le monde nous entend?
J'ai pas compris.
Voilà. Quand on se parle comme ça, tout le monde nous entend?
Tout le monde nous entend, oui.
I'm gonna take a break.
Okay. You can take a break if you like. I'm going to read through the comments. I've got a few things.
Thank you, Courtney.
You're welcome. I will not be able to attend the rest. Will I get feedback? Yes. I am recording the session, so I will make them available to you in some way. And I will send through, I sent through the links in the chat box, which you can get to, but I'll also send through links in a follow-up email. So yes, 3:15, please, for Andy. Okay, I will be around. I am technically both now. I'm American, born in Iowa, but I've been living here for about 20 years. So I picked up a bit of French on the way, I suppose. Thank you. Kind of you to say. I'd speak fast in both languages, so I apologize if it was if it was a bit rushed, especially when I get excited. If any of you are listening, I do have a personal story in terms of, now that you've asked me about my French. I took English, or I took, excuse me, I took English, I took French at university, and I thought I was pretty hot stuff, thought I could speak it, I was good. I was going to read a book that I had read 5, 6 times in English as an English major. I love this book. I want to pick it up and I'm going to do it in French. I did not get one chapter in, and I set it down because I was just disgusted with how difficult it was. I don't know if anybody wants to guess what book it was. 19th century, French, very French, Parisian. Try not to give it away. No, that's not it. No, it's Zola, not Victor Hugo. Zola, yeah. I loved it in English. I've not touched it since. L'Assommoir, yes, that was the first book I tried to read in French. What a mess. The idea really with readers is not for it to be a chore, not to be hard. You don't want to grab a dictionary every sentence. You know, you want it to be the pleasure of reading. So it's almost, I like to think of it, yeah, well, I'd already read it in English, so it shouldn't have been that hard. The idea is almost like, it's kind of a funny way of putting it perhaps, but you're just sort of like digesting or ingesting or swallowing the language. You just get used to just absorbing the structures as they are. And it doesn't matter if they're simple, because simple is still correct. And it's a lot better than trying to bite off more than you can chew, I guess. So my little personal story about readers. Zola is not easy to read. For a French person, it's not easy to read. Well, that's reassuring, if I'm not alone. Hi, Andy.
Hi, just to reassure you, I'm here, alive and well.
Great. Lovely to see you.
Yeah.
You're
that was great.
Not driving anymore.
What?
You're not driving anymore.
Yeah, sorry about that. Oh,
No worries.
I don't want to spook you, but it's been quite a morning. I'm okay, but good. And did I mention I'm looking after my elderly parents at the moment?
You've mentioned it to me, but you haven't mentioned it to all the participants in the Zoom room yet, until now.
Oh, did I?
You just did.
Oh, hello. Hi, everybody. And they are going to be mentioned in the session, actually, so it's relevant.
Yeah, well, they seem to be very present in your life. I've spoken with you a few times over the past couple of weeks, and they come up a lot. Well,
the reason I couldn't, because I think I wanted to be there at the beginning of this, and I'm happy for any teachers to hear this. There's no secrets. I really wanted to be there at the lineup, and you know, and say hello. Here I am. I'll be on later. If you did that, but my mum isn't well, and I had to go over again this morning, and it's a delight actually to see and look after them. But you know, it's coming with some things where I juggle, you know. So I was ready. I love giving this talk, and I love doing these sessions. So it's, you know, I could even do it. You know, I think I actually have done something similar in a car in South America where I couldn't attend on time. We were stuck in traffic, so they streamed my talk from my smartphone through to the room on the TV. Because there was no other choice, and they wanted the teachers to have something because they had to go home. But anyway, I just wanted you to know I'm here. I've got my water, and I'm just
ready to go.
I don't want to share my slides just yet. I just want to check a running order, okay?
Okay, that's fine. For the moment, it's my screen up for the break time. And we were just talking, I just gave you, I think I told you my example of how I tried to read a really hard book in French the first time. I thought I was good, and I wasn't that good yet.
No, I'm just sorry. I was double multitasking for a moment. I know. Well, that's what goes wrong. We all try and force ourselves to do too much, and if we do that as adults, you know, then you know that's asking a huge amount of of anyone. So if you're a teenager, today I want to do that, really just encourage us to balance the difficult with the easy and with the language benefits. Let me just, going to hide my camera for a second whilst I just maybe, I can hear you and I can talk, but I don't want to look too glazed as I concentrate on making sure these slides, because I've managed to rather happily cut out quite a bit, having watched and listened to Charlotte do the wonderful groundwork there. Normally I have to pack in all that wonderful foundation around what extensive reading is, how to implement it, the obstacles, and what I'd like to do is pick up on that with her and then go straight into activities that will help teachers feel they have a place right next to course books as they do what they've always done.
Fantastic.
So I'm just going to check my slides.
For those that are, those of you that are listening, just to give you an idea, we sell course books, but we also sell methods. Excuse me, we sell course books. We also sell readers and literature, littérature en VO. So what some schools do is, if they want to set up a program, they may contact us, and we can put a page up on our site, and you can send the parents there to buy books. That looks something like this, if my computer will work. But this is from one of our websites. You got a list of books, and then you can send them a link. If you don't want to purchase, do a group purchase, you can send them a link, and we can create a page for your school. So that's one way of encouraging reading and helping get it set up for your schools.
Oh, thanks, babe. It's a cup of tea just arrived. Thank you, dear.
Yes, it will be able to watch a replay. When sometime this week, I will send a link to be able to watch it. I don't know if it'll be on YouTube, a YouTube link, or if it'll be a WeTransfer link, but you will normally be able to receive the video. You'll be able to watch the video. I started a bit late because I forgot. Just a few minutes into it, so it's like 5 or 6 minutes into Charlotte's talk, but you still get the meaty bit of it. At the very last minute, I had to change rooms because my internet connection wasn't stable, so it might have thrown me off a bit at the beginning. Okay, all right. Thank you for coming.
What book are you struggling with? Were you pushing yourself to read, Courtney?
L'Assommoir from Zola.
What's it called?
L'Assommoir.
What's that in English?
I think I called it The Struggle. Maybe somebody knows. I couldn't remember it.
How do you could you pronounce it slowly for me to teach me the French?
L apostrophe, so L'Assommoir.
L'Assommoir.
Yeah.
L'Assommoir.
Yeah. Laure, do you know what it is in English? It's something like The Struggle. Sorry, I've got a teacher that's just responded to me, but
okay, I'm already giving up on the book, and I haven't even got past the title.
Exactly. Somebody just raised their hand.
The jet.
Did you want to say something?
No, sorry, not me. I was playing an audio by accident.
Liam, if you want me to send you something, I can send you one. L'Assommoir. What is it? I feel like it's something like The Struggle. Because it's certainly, their life certainly is a struggle, if we can call it. The stunner. Right. The stunner. That's what Google Translate says. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's certainly a struggle and certainly a stunner. Wikipedia says it cannot be properly translated.
Now I'm just so curious. Could you put it in the chat? I need to see that, what that looks like.
It's in the chat already.
L'Assommoir. It's all one word. Isn't it funny how, without reading it, isn't it? That's such a great lesson for everybody. If they don't know it, never show the writing and the reading until you've got the pronunciation, because otherwise you're guided by, if you didn't know any French as an English speaker, you'd say l'assommoir, l'assommoir.
L'assommoir. Yeah, it means literally stunned by like blunt force or something like that.
Okay. Well, there was also a book called Mein Kampf, which is my struggle, but I think that was down a different avenue, didn't it?
Yes. That
Yeah, we won't go.
It's not exactly the same thing.
No.
There was a lot less plum brandy in it. All I remember from the L'Assommoir, well, not all I remember, but a lot of it was how much brandy those people drank.
If only the Mein Kampf had been just really promoting plum brandy.
Yeah. The world would be a different place.
A different place. A bowl of cherries. Oh, do you see what I did there? I segued into a little joke about cherries just from plums, and wow. I can't wait to be in Paris and have this talk. If anyone's listening, I'm not done with this particular topic. I absolutely love it. And Charlotte has already done all the heavy lifting on why it's absolutely vital. And I want to be in Paris. I'll go around France. I'll go and eat at any restaurant and do the talk for free when I'm slightly wealthier than I am today.
Well, when I do a talk at a conference in person, you can come and I will sit in that restaurant with you and
eat plums.
You eat plums, yeah.
There must be a French dish with plums in, otherwise I'm going to be very disappointed.
French dish with plums.
What's a plum in French then? Let's start with that.
Prune.
Prune. It's probably tarte aux prunes. Huh?
There's definitely that.
What about prune casserole? Yeah. Prune monsieur.
Bonjour. How about a phare pruneau from wonderful Brittany?
Yes, of course. I'm sorry, Mr. Guillaume. I should have known that.
Oh, that's great.
I eat it all the time.
I'm cancelling my talk and I'm getting in the car to drive over now to eat it.
Brexit is starting to weigh, huh?
Yeah. Brexit, for many people, Brexit doesn't really exist in their heads. It's just, we're just ignoring it. We're hoping it'll go away.
Well, I'm glad it doesn't exist for you, but for those of us that buy a lot of things from the UK, it exists big time.
You see this comment, lapin en pruneau? That's right.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want to offend any of our French listeners with how I don't eat any of their French food because I don't eat meat. The lapin en pruneau, yeah. Andy, did you say you were driving again?
No, God, no. Sorry.
Okay, sorry, because I just looked at the time and I thought you really.
No, sorry.
You need to get going then.
Spook you there. I'm here in my room in my house. I'm just moving one final thing. I think that's the one we need to do. Okay.
Thank you for the links. The title L'Assommoir could not be properly translated into English. So that's why I had trouble with that, because it's not possible.
It cannot be translated. Now
that's
a struggle right there.
Yeah. And later, then the first book I did read in French was Albert Camus, Étranger, and that went down a whole lot easier. So I didn't give up completely, but I did.
No, never. Well, depends how motivated you are to push yourself through. Some people have a sort of masochistic desire. I'm not commenting on your own mindset, but some people like to really.
Not here.
No.
This is not the place, Andy.
Life's hard enough and life's too short. Okay. Okay. Oh, I can't wait to do this. I just love doing this talk. I actually want all those teachers. I want them. If you're listening, teachers, I want you to knock. I want you to call people, give them the link, call them, get them to join in. This will change their life. If they've seen Charlotte. If they haven't seen Charlotte, they need to replay that. This is a life-changing, game-changing. I am not being ironic. And you'll see in my face just how important this is, despite what we believe teaching should be. There's a conundrum. We should teach this way. In this country, we have to teach this way. Well, we'll come to that. I'm going to start my slide there so I can recommend Courtney as the local.
Thank you, Liam.
Agent. Andy?
No, I was thanking Liam for a comment.
Oh, okay. Well, for goodness sake, please. All right, Liam. Okay.
Somebody has raised their hand. Do you need to say something? Two people have raised their hands. Is that on accident? Or do you have a question? You put it in the discussion box or the question box. Again, if you need a certificate, I have drawn one up. It doesn't have any official accreditation, obviously, but if you'd like something, I can send something on. I will also be sending through a link. Unfortunately, with a very stressful moment at the beginning of the webinar, I had to move rooms, and I think I forgot to hit record right away. So we might have missed 2 or 3 minutes of Charlotte's, but it should be okay.
Is Charlotte still there? Are you there, Charlotte? Hello?
No, she's gone. She had
Aww.
things.
Oh, I haven't seen her for ages. I haven't seen anyone for ages. But luckily, through books and reading, we can meet the characters we miss so much.
Exactly. Okay, Liam. I am connected, but I seem to. Can you international area man? Can you hear us now?
Now I want to know who Liam is. Liam sounds interesting.
Do you yes, because I haven't turned on. Augusto, do you want to speak? Like, I have to turn on your audio. Okay. One moment. Normally you can speak now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, fine. So, hi everyone. Hi Andy.
Hi. I'm going to put my camera on. Okay, here I am.
Hi.
Bonjour tout le monde.
I beg your pardon?
Bonjour tout le monde.
Bonjour à tout le monde.
Buongiorno.
Buongiorno, Courtney. Thank you everyone for organizing this webinar. How many people are connected apart me?
There are, earlier we had about 65, another 55, but 140 people
65.
signed, 145 people were signed up.
Very good. Very good. Very bad that they signed up,
But people may join now.
But yeah. In any case, I will follow the webinar. I will put my microphone off, not to disturb the whole thing. And I only wish you the best possible webinar with a lot of interesting things. I'm sure Andy has prepared a cauldron of many ideas.
Yes, thank you. I am stirring the cauldron as we speak.
All right, fine.
How are you, my friend?
I'm okay. Working from home in this period.
Yeah.
and then we will see in the next coming weeks. Hopefully,
Yeah.
things will turn to the better,
Yeah.
possibly.
We're going to
Yeah.
start, if I may just interject here, we're going to start in about 1 minute.
Okay, I'll put my microphone off then, and then we'll follow the webinar on the
we
screen.
are coming up, we've gone past the time you're supposed to start. Too much chatting.
Yeah,
All right.
It's so unlike us.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. When
Sorry.
in this industry, who talks to it?
All right.
Will I share my screen?
Yes, please, you can take over now. I don't know if you want to wait
fine.
a minute or so, but we can certainly, I think, get going if you like, for the very kind people who have stayed with us thus far.
Can you see the screen, the introduction slide of the young woman with a book on her face?
Yes, I am now going to leave.
Okay, and quickly before you, can you also see the bowl of cherries? Fancy
Yes, yes, I can. Just very quickly, I'm going to present you. This is Andy Cowell, everyone, for those of you who have never seen him or heard of him. He is a very experienced teacher trainer who has been doing this, I don't know that you'll mind me saying, for, was it 30 years, something like that?
Yeah.
I met you 10 years ago, so it's certainly been a while.
When I was 21, 21, 25, I think, something.
Okay. He's been all over the world giving talks, obviously a lot online as well, and his current passion is reading and teaching and helping teachers get their students reading, to teaching them to read, but also teaching them to love reading, which I think is what we're going to talk about today. So take it away, Andy.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Pradeep and Sid, and all of you for coming along. And I'm quickly in the chat putting in my email address, Twitter and Instagram, and the website of my lovely hosts who've invited me as a consultant and have done for a couple of years now to be a trainer for their materials. Ellie Publishing in Italy, who have international publishing success in across all languages, French, German, Spanish, and I am the ELT trainer, one of the trainers. And yes, today is one of my areas of, I suppose, expertise, because that's the one I've done the most research on, and the one for which, and I really want to emphasize this as kind of a universal credibility of the topic, not me. The fact that I've talked about this for 30 years and the fact I've done this across so many countries is not about how this is my idea. I am the messenger, a passionate messenger for teachers anywhere with any cultural background, any level of experience, any belief about what teaching should be, to position extensive reading alongside whatever we do already. And that's very important to remember at the beginning of this, because as we go through it, and as you must have thought about it through Charlotte's excellent foundation of telling you what extensive reading is, and I'm going to reinforce some of those points, but of course also give you some activities, some more activities that would, complement Charlotte's work there. But it's to just remind ourselves that reading isn't something like one skill of 4. It's not just, well, it is one skill of 4, but it does much more for language learning and for assisting you as teachers than you can possibly imagine if you haven't come across extensive reading. Let me just get going now. I also need to warn you, once I pick up my pace and my stride, I am going to go relatively quickly, knowing that I can send you my slides, which I will, through Courtney, whose information is there. You can email me anytime you wish. I always reply, especially on this subject. And I will send you more information on what extensive reading is. Charlotte's going to send you some terrific stuff. And I've got some things I like to share by people who have done this for years. They have used graded readers alongside their classes and homework in a proportion that at the moment many teachers feel is not possible because you haven't got time. But that's because we need to think about how we use our time. And the really tricky thing, is to challenge ourselves to think, is what we're doing working? Which is why I've got the title, Reading is Broken. We have to ask ourselves the question, and I'm not going to waste time with surveys here and polls, but in a group, we do a show of hands. And if we are honest, to what extent, I mean, let's assume we all work hard, we're good teachers, we're doing the best we can, we have system limitations, okay? But if I assume that we're good teachers, doing the best we can, why is it, and France, you can tell me if I'm wrong, I'm going to look in the chat, but why is it that, looking for chat, most students, not all, most around all countries in the world, including the UK, they leave school believing that reading is boring, and that reading is boring and was always difficult at school. And by this, I mean reading in English, reading in a foreign language, because I know France very well. I love France, and I know there's a justifiable pride in reading in French culture, and I know that you're great for this. But someone's already, Laura, because we don't let them choose what they read. Yeah, because they find the language difficult. They don't get to choose what to read. Now, this is why it's broken. Imagine, and I swear, this talk I'm going to give you, and what Charlotte has done, watch these videos again and again and read the resources, because I want you to change if you think that despite your best efforts, students leave school thinking reading in English is boring and difficult. And I know the system is in the way, but we can change it in the classroom a little bit. And if you're thinking, yeah, this could be good, but we have inspectors coming in and we have the parents. I know, I've seen it, but I've seen countries and classrooms change no matter what. Okay, so change takes time. I am going to ask you to consider not just the activities I give you today, but to bring in graded readers so much more than you think at the moment is currently possible. And I'm going to show you why. It's not to make them happy necessarily, but it will. It's not because we're trying to be their friend, although they might like your lessons more, because at the moment it's quite difficult. We're doing it because of what happens when students read more often, but below their level. This whole thing works if we don't just give them a choice, and that's one thing, level and topic, but we ask them to read at their level or below. And that means every page they see has only 3, 4, maximum 5 words that they don't know, so that they can keep on reading without stopping. And I want you to think about that, because that's not what normally happens, because there's a belief. And where is the evidence? There's no evidence. There is a belief that if we keep pushing the students with difficult texts, that's what school is. That's what we do. I know it's tough. Suck it up, kids. I'm afraid that's school. But hopefully when you leave, you'll find, no, we have to train the students to believe that reading is not always difficult. And the simple change comes from balance, okay? Now, like I say, this is my balance picture. You like it? This is what we're doing at the moment. No matter what you're doing, I'm sure in a group where I'd love to see you and engage more and have some hands raised, but this is what happens around the world. And I think it's the same in France. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You're following what the system has trained you to do. But most ministries of education haven't really explored enough what power extensive reading does that will boost the results of your students. That's the craziest thing. That's why there's always a part of me when I love to give this talk, and I hope open eyes to this magic that happens with more reading. And they don't have to be kids who like reading or a teacher who does it because he likes reading. This is as important as teaching grammar. And I'll talk about why this part, the intensive reading, is only half of the job done. What you're looking at here is a list of what the course book offers. And I love course books. I've written some, and I've seen great course books, and we've seen bad ones, okay. And we pick and choose and do our best. But at the end of the day, a course book is only a roadmap. It is only an academic distillation of an abstract concept of language broken down into agreed chunks of language and vocabulary to feed, you know, if you say, how do you eat an elephant? Piece by piece, right? It's a joke, but it's fun. It's true. You feed the pieces of the language elephant of English, piece by piece. But so far, it's always about every page, every unit is new language, right? And that's fine. That's what we do. We teach them new language. The inspectors seem to advise using several. All right, I tell you what, there's some things coming up, and if I forget to address them, please remember to ask me at the end, okay? I want to address some of these questions as best I can. But let's go with the fact that a course book does whatever it does, but it doesn't give the chance for students to really practice. And if someone says that workbooks do the practice, you got to ask yourself, does it give them long-term memory practice, or does it just show you whether they understood the lesson? And I think that's what workbooks are supposed to do. Test the grammar and the vocabulary, gap fill, whatever. Workbook, parents are happy because it looks like the students are doing that good old hard work of English workbooks. And you see that they have done the work and understood it, so you can maybe go back and revise. But what about, that was unit 4 of the workbook. What about unit 8 of the workbook? How much of unit 4 have they really remembered? Do the progress tests and the review units of the good course books really give them that practice? But there's something else missing anyway. But to catch what, to reinforce what Charlotte was saying, and what we absolutely need to get to know and do is extensive reading, which, as you can see, is a balance to those other things. They're easy texts to read, not difficult. They're long texts, not short. There are no tests at the end. Well, how do I know they're reading? We'll come to that. Choice. I'll come back to choice. You can give up and swap a book. Why not? Frequency, not limited reading, frequency, always reading, and it is motivating. If you could finish a book in a foreign language, even at A1 level, which is what readers can let you do, how motivating is that? How motivating is that? Now, choice, I want you to imagine, because we've experienced, you know, quite a bit of restrictions in the last year. Are you with me? Let's add one more restriction, all right? We've got a sort of reading lockdown, okay? That doesn't mean we're going to read in lockdown. It means that Andy's taking complete control of your lives, all right, for the next 10 years, let's say, or 12. How long do we spend at school? 10 years, 12? I am now in control of your life, your reading life, for the next 12 years, all right? Let's not quibble over how long they go to school. And in those years, you have to read 3 books only, maybe 2 in English. You're not a teacher, by the way. Okay, maybe you are. Hey, doesn't matter how good your English is. I'm going to give you books that I choose, whether you like it or not, and whether you can understand them or not. You go, well, I'm good at English. Well, I can give you, I'm sure you know there are books. Just read James Joyce. That's a challenge. I'll find books that you don't like, but I love, or the system says. You get no chance to swap them. You can't give up. And you have to do questions throughout for 10 years. Now, that's not your fault, but it is the fault of the systems of education all over the world, because they have this false belief that unless you're teaching the students, they're not learning. Unless they're challenged by a text, they're not learning. Well, the evidence doesn't support that. I mean, have you read the evidence of classroom-based reading through graded reading? We're going to show you how that looks. We have to engage the students in choice, books in the classroom, as we were saying earlier, Charlotte was saying earlier, and let them know that reading has a place in the classroom from the very beginning. Now, many parents might say, no, I'm going to come back to that. You can see what's coming. No, we don't have, this is not teaching English, parents' evening. What are you doing, giving them easy things to read? That's not school. And of course, I have to ask you to find your diplomatic words with your parents and even the headmasters and principals of your school to say, look, wait, I've been trained. I've seen talks about extensive reading. I've seen what the difference is. And maybe you're still getting used to it today, but trust me, if you look up what Charlotte has sent you, what I'm going to send you, and take your time to explore something that is absolutely game-changing and will boost the results and motivation of your students in school, then why not consider the changes and get your colleagues to understand it and work together. But you know, if we don't do it, the students they're just gonna struggle. They're gonna leave school believing that I have no choice. I have to read these books. I don't like them. They tell me they're good for me. And even if they understand them, which let's look at the authentic texts that they have to read in a high school, they can't understand them. I mean, it may be in the course book, it may be in the system, but don't we believe that it's an uphill struggle? Can't we balance that? Maybe you can't change that, fine, you know, but bring in easy things. It's okay to read easy things. Parents might not like it, but parents aren't teachers. They went to school and they believe without even thinking that maybe they have an opinion about what you should do and shouldn't do because they went to school. Well, I go to the dentist, but it doesn't mean I can tell my dentist how to fix my teeth. I can drive. I don't tell my mechanic. And I think you have to put a line in the sand and say, guys, we've done the research. Did you like reading at school in English? No. Do you read a lot now in English? No. Did you find reading was boring at school? Yeah. Did you like the workbooks? Did you remember lots from the workbooks? Don't know, really. Don't think so. So why are we doing it? And I want change. Now, I will give you activities to really enjoy reading in the classroom, but we've got to clearly balance the course book work with graded readers. Okay, let's get going. So they'll say, for example, parents, you'll need more books. You'll need about, let's say a choice of 3 or 4 titles per student in any class. So if you have a class of 30 students, you need about 100 books, different, every single one different, across a range of levels and topics. And I'm going to show you how to implement some extensive reading. I think Charlotte's sending you some links. This is not an easy fix. It doesn't happen overnight, but the benefits are enormous. Imagine that you changed the way your classes are. Every student that you ever meet, you can't win them all, but so many more students, millions of students per year can leave school with a very different feeling about reading, because we have the choice to give them difficult things or easy things. But I'll show you why reading easily in English helps them learn more than grammar lessons can possibly do. Grammar lessons teach them new language. Where's the fluency practice? And the parents will say, I'm not buying any more books for the school. And I say, well, okay, I just want you to buy 1 book for the school for life. And they go, really? Yeah. Okay, so how many parents represent, how many families would be in your school? 200, 300? If they all give 10 euros to buy a book, I don't care which book, I want them to buy Ellie books, but at this point, I want them to buy something that's the equivalent of a coffee and a piece of cake. They wouldn't think twice. Parents, coffee and cake, how much is that? 10 euros, 12, Paris, 52 euros. But anyway, for the price of this, they donate for the school. And you look at the Ellie catalogue of readers, and you make choices that it's brilliant. You don't need a building for a library. I know teachers around the world who do extensive reading, and they carry, look, it could be a bag. Okay, no books here, but you see, that can be a library. And if your principal doesn't like it and the parents don't like it, I find ways with teachers to gather the books they need, and they carry them around, and they learn that teacher and Andy teacher, he goes around with books, readers, and they get dog-eared, but they last and they become part of my lesson. Now I'm going to whiz through now fast because I want to get through activities. Let's look at this picture. Are there any questions so far? I should really keep an eye on anything particularly worrying you, but with the understanding that this is about changing how we spend our time. Yeah, how we plan our year ahead. Absolutely. I will give you activities that will work and you'll love, but it won't take away the problem of reading being always difficult. We've got to go with easy reading. All right. It's also taboo in the public system to ask parents to buy books. Well, you can have, I don't know, you can have events where you raise money. You can have another way to raise money. I don't know, culturally, it's a great point, Usken, but ask yourself the question, if I want a good couple of bags of readers, LE readers, ask the school to reconsider how they spend their money. I'm not trying to sell the readers here, I'm selling the concept. Pocket money, coffee and cake, student, I mean, I'm going to make a note of that, the money thing, because in my link, with all my slides and resources from today, I'm going to make sure there's a piece of information there, some resources by teachers who've done this, who found creative ways to raise the money to buy enough books, because one book for the student, you know, doesn't work. You go into the class with Frankenstein or Vanity Fair for 1 year, and there are countries that do this. They have one reader for the class for the whole year. I mean, even if you love Harry Potter, and even if it existed at A2 level, you can be sure the kids will hate it at the end of the year, because all we've ever done is one book, no choice. Some kids hate Harry Potter, and then all you've done is give them questions. So I'd like to engage in that discussion more, but I'm going to move on with activities. Look at this picture. You've had some time to think about it. What's happening? What's happening? I'm going to look back through the chat later, I promise you, and address these issues. And you can use the Q&A for anything I can raise at the end. Someone's drowning. Okay, I hope not. But you've got the idea. So yes, shipwreck. So you've got the idea that he's at sea. It's a he. There's something going on here. Shipwrecked, survivors swimming to the shore. Laura Papalardo. Yeah, well, that's great. Liam's also got it. And the students would look at this. Now, what we're looking at here is a way to just go straight into a reader. I'm going to work with a reader in the class, and this reader we might use it for 1 or 2 weeks, and then that's the end of the story. Yeah, I allow time to do easy reading. Do you know the story this is from? It looks like a fly in the water. Let me confirm that it is a man who has been shipwrecked. He is swimming to the shore, as some of you correctly identified. Now, here's the thing, for the lower level classes, now maybe you cannot, this is where it's difficult, because I quite like the noise in the workshops when I say to teachers, I don't mind if you brainstorm in French or Spanish or Korean, wherever I'm doing the talk. And they go, oh no, it's terrible, English only. No, it's not terrible. It's like going underwater. I remember as a kid, oh, this lesson is only in French. I didn't have enough French. Even when I was, you know, a few years down the line. It's like going underwater. Anyway, that's a different discussion about English only classes. But we have to remember as teachers what it's like, okay, to be in a class where you don't have enough language and you've only got to speak in English. It is, and I had a lot of anxiety over that. It almost put me off languages for life, but I turned it around somehow. Thank you to my dad and my desire to travel. But trust me, I don't want them to be tested at this point or working out English. I want them to know what's going on and feel comfortable. And you can do it in French, okay? Yeah, thank you, Liam. Yeah, carried on. And then it won't kill them. It won't kill your lesson or the fabric of the educational mindset to let them brainstorm for 1 minute in French. Because you've got ideas down, right? You've got more ideas than you're going to get in English. And only the confident English kids are going to say anything. All the other ones, and then you're picking on people, aren't you? He's not, you know, you got the same hands are up. Okay, now come on, what do you think? And he doesn't want to say, he probably knows, but hasn't got the English. So why does that work? Brainstorm in French. Sue me if you don't like it. Then shut it down again. Okay, great. Now let's try some English. We've got some great ideas, verbs and words, nouns, adjectives. Let's think of the English. Do you know the English for shipwreck? Pre-teach, pre-teach. Is he swimming or drowning? We think, what swim? Swim they know, drown they don't. You know, so we're using their input to elicit and pre-teach what we know they're going to read. In other words, we don't say, we're doing this book, let's open the page. Chapter 1, right, you start reading. No way that does that work. There's nowhere I've ever seen it work. And at 40 years, 45 years, 25 years ago, when I was at school, didn't work for me either. Now, Let's have a look. You could lead them through some tips if they didn't quite know what they were looking at, but then you got the idea. What's the book? Does anyone want to guess what the book is? It doesn't matter if you don't know. That's not important. Ah, good question. Good answer. No, not Robinson Crusoe. The other one. The other classic with a shipwreck. No, not The Life of Pi. Pi. No. Oh, good. My goodness, you're not Lord of the Flies. Titanic. Ooh, Treasure Island. Okay, I love all these. No. Gulliver. Angélique. Très bien. Gulliver's Travels. What's the French title? I can't waste time like this. This is so much fun though. What's the French title? Just curious. Gulliver's Travels. Les Voyages de Gulliver. Okay, thank you. And then you show the next picture. So you've got the kids thinking, "Ooh, what? Shipwreck, sure." Boom. Then you say to them, what happens next? And there's no reading. This is how we get into readers. This is how we get the students to want to read, because you're leading them through pictures. And the pictures are in the book. You know, the pictures are in the LE graded readers. So you go, what's happening here? Now, for those of you who know the story, you can tell me in the chat. If you don't know the story, have a guess. What on earth is happening? Did he drown? If the students are confused, you say, did he drown? No. Did he survive? Yes. The red man didn't drown, correct. Okay, so Laura comes straight in. The Lilliputians are tying Gulliver up. That's great. And that's okay if the student knows. If you have a student who knows, you go, great. Laura, just could you explain what you know? Can you? And then it's okay. No, I like the spoilers are good. Some students are going to have the answer by guessing correctly, which is good, or they've read the book. Brilliant. So they say, okay, what's happened? He survived, but he woke up with ropes and, so this is not about knowing the story, but you can use information from students who do know. But you can say, well, we're going to read the story, guys. We're going to find out what happens. He was shipwrecked, and then he woke up with all these little people. Okay, now this is a classic, all right? And this is the part where we're going to show the graded version. Now, I've been in countless situations with very tricky teachers, usually native speaker teachers, English teachers in international schools, and they say, oh, this is not literature. If you're making it simple, it's not literature. Jonathan Swift was trying to be satirical, and the beautiful language, oh, beautiful language. Oh, English is so beautiful. I go, yeah, I know. But if you give it to a student who's 15 years old or 16, are they gonna handle authentic Jonathan Swift? Because I don't believe authentic texts are the answer. I think you should, I do believe authentic texts have a place in the English language teaching classroom, but only, absolutely only if they have authentic reading strategies. And those strategies can only come from a balance of simple reading, because this is what the outcome, this is what we want at the end of their reading life, to be able to read difficult, authentic text. But is that a realistic outcome to expect of the students? That's not idealistic. So we've got to, okay, you can't change the fact you're doing authentic text. I think I've heard about that, but we have to give them something that they can read. Now, look, read the opening part of the opening chapter. Just read the opening chapter here. It's part of chapter 1. Just put yes when you've finished, and then we can see who's a very keen student. And also it's a chance to impress your colleagues that you can read fast. Read the text. There's no questions, no testing. Don't worry about the colors at the moment. Liam, top of the class. If we believe Liam. Michelle, Please stop talking, really? Someone, is that a joke? Because you're done. Right, it doesn't matter if you read it all. There's no questions. This isn't a comprehension test. Now look at the colors. What am I trying to do here with the colors? What am I showing you here as teachers? What am I showing you here? What's my point? No, yes. Who said that? Jin. Jean? Jin? That's a great name. Sorry, hope you're not offended. Nope, highlighting the same words. Yeah, no, not grammar points. Although I will come to that. That's not entirely wrong. My main point here, thanks, Jin. There's jokes I could make, but I want to emphasize here, the reason I have highlighted these is to show the repetition of language. It's not only easy, which is one point, but it is repetition of language. Now, if you remember nothing else from this talk today, if you remember nothing else from this session, please take this away. Screenshot this page or whatever, all right? And remember, this captures the two reasons that graded readers exist and why we must use them much more. Reason number one, it makes a difficult text easy to read. Gulliver's Travels, too difficult in the original. Graded, and let's remember LE readers and readers are graded from A1 to B2, you know, C1 even. We are making a difficult text, but a wonderful story and clever themes, simple to access. Reason number one. But reason number two is what most teachers forget or don't even know about graded readers. Graded readers are your language assistant, my friends. They repeat the language. By the very nature of a leveled text, the words and expressions that can be used are limited. We want that. We want the limitation. If the story is good enough and the topic is interesting enough, which depends on the student, which is why they need choice, they will see words over and over and over again. And this must be a text that a student can understand at 95% comprehensible. If this is causing problems for a student because of level, they shouldn't be reading it. If they are reading and there's more than 5 words that are difficult, it's the wrong text. I don't care if they have been a fan of Gulliver's Travels since they saw the film. They will hate the book and reading if they can't read it. And that's why reading is broken in schools all around the world, in teaching English or foreign languages especially. And it can change. You can change it with your bag of books, by getting readers, by knowing that you've got to balance the difficult with the easy, not just for motivation purposes. Yeah, there's a film with Jack Black, and I'll show you there's an activity you can do with the shipwreck scene. Google Jack Black, Gulliver's Travels. You can see most of the scenes on YouTube, and you can use those. I haven't got the time, but when I do film workshops on using films to motivate reading, which is I'd love to do that for you guys, films to motivate reading. Then where was I? Then yeah, if we give them the repetition, then the students are going to start to really get the practice. The course book has only shown you new language, but there's no chance to go back and really revise it. A list of words for a vocab test on Monday doesn't work. Very few students respond well to that. Some brains do, most don't. The brain doesn't like lists. It likes context. It loves stories. You know this. They love stories. And if the students encountered the word storm for the first time in this book, they're going to see it 20, 30 times in the story. It's in the memory. And that's the reason we use graded readers. Yes, next time, oui, c'est ça, bonjour. Les films sont magnifiques. Now, I'm going to move faster now through activities, because now that I've bedded in what, you know, Charlotte was saying about extensive reading and how this isn't just if you like reading or we have a little bit of extra time on a Friday. No, parallel, find a way. There's loads of links I'm going to show you on balancing, taking away some of the things that maybe we could do without in your current curriculum design. your time to deliver the syllabus and put in more class reading and homework reading, but not, repeat, not books you choose, books they choose, and at their level or below the level. It sounds so counterintuitive. It's intuitive. That's a great word. Use it tomorrow. It's counterintuitive of teachers to think that we should give students easy reading, but it doesn't work like that. It's not just to motivate them. Repetition, repetition, repetition in a fun context. All right. Now, there's an example from another text. No time to read it, but just from another book, a new one from a series of non-fiction. Not everybody likes fiction. I like fiction, but I read a lot of non-fiction because I think I've gone a bit, I think the lockdown changed me a little bit. I wanted to read sort of more non-fiction, but I'll go back to fiction. Or I have two on the go, but there's some repetition there. Readers are, it's an art. It is a real art to write at the level to keep something interesting and something the students can feel they benefit from. Oh, wait a second, isn't it going to be boring? Yeah, that does remind me, that question or comment from Jean or Jin. Some students might have, yeah, that's really weird. Some students believe that school should be difficult and they're quite motivated because they're quite keen and they're good students, and they'll complain if it's not difficult. Well, okay. Let them read something difficult. If they benefit, that's fine. If they don't like reading something easy and they are really happy reading difficult things, fine. I'm not going to stop you. But the value is really not challenging the language. You need to teach the students the good news. This isn't about reading difficult things because they haven't been used to it. It's like you've been doing heavy weights all the time and they're saying you don't have to do heavy weights, but you're still going to be a good student. Why? Because I don't want you to just read difficult things. I want you to get through stories, because then you learn stuff. Reading more books makes you smarter. And I think that the system conditions students and parents to believe that it's pointless giving them easy things. That's not even school. Yes, it is. School is not about making it hard. It's making them educated. When you read books, you become clever. You know stuff. You learn about cultures. You know why we read. And if we don't give them that feeling inside that English is accessible, not only won't they read, but they won't have a chance to see the words repeated. There you go. And the evidence is done by people much better than me. Paul Nation, look at that. I'll send you the link. Look at that. We know this stuff too. We don't learn from just one meeting with the word. We need lots of chances to see the word. I'm going to send this to you all. Don't worry, I'm rushing through to the activities a bit more. Let me read that. It's too easy to forget that teaching does not cause learning. We are learners in our minds autonomously. And we forget that because students have finished a unit, it does not mean they have mastered all the words. And I think we're Paul Nation, right? It's not Terry, it's Paul. Ah, that's Rob Waring, but Paul Nation, I'll quote now in a minute. There's Paul. Oh, there's Paul Nation. I think Rob Waring did this one in his book, his article on principles. But I stand corrected if I've misquoted the person. Teaching a word does not mean the students learned it. Teaching and learning do not go lockstep, hand in hand from easy to difficult. It's too easy to forget that teaching does not cause learning, and to forget that because students have finished a unit does not mean they've mastered the words. And Rob Waring goes on to say that we don't have the time to teach everything about a word, so students have to become independent word learners. And by the way, when we do course book teaching, which is important, we've got to show them new stuff. That's good. And then we've got to go away and practice. And graded readers are the practice. By reading more easily, so you're exposed to loads and loads of stories and you've chosen them and you're reading more words, the student develops that Sprachgefühl, as we say in German, the feeling for the language. Now, isn't that ultimately a great thing when you have a feeling for language, how words go together? How do you teach that? Well, go and live in a native speaker country. Can't really do that, but we can replicate it similarly. in the classroom by giving them this access to easy things. So it's hard to tell a student who wants to be difficult, do difficult text all the time, that what you're giving them is a chance to get a feeling for the language. All right. So frequency of exposure is the key. And like I said, going to the country would be great. But going to the country to learn the language, you've got to stop and think about why that works. You know, if I go to France for a year, I'll remember some of my school French. I think I can remember taxi and bus in French, okay? I might remember bread and cheese and, you know, but those words are going to come back to me because they're more frequent. I'm not going to learn easily the word honesty, dishonesty, discrepancy, manufacturing. And you're going to say to me, they're difficult words. Well, they're not. They're just less frequent. Frequency is what makes language easy. I haven't got the slide today, but sometimes I share a list of Japanese words. Very few people in the audience know Japanese. I don't know Japanese. And I asked them to choose from the 8 words, which are the easiest. And of course, nobody has a clue. And then I showed the answers: table, discrepancy, manufacture, table. And they say, oh, they're the easy English words. No, a word becomes easy through exposure. And I know I don't want to insult your intelligence, but that is what makes something easy, isn't it? When you know it, and you only remember it because you saw it over and over again. And this is exactly how it is for us as humans. Kids learn words like mum, don't they? Dad, or dad first. What else do they say? Milk, thirsty, hungry, nappy, want, you know. So kids don't go around saying things like blue chip iPad connector piece, USB stick. Well, maybe they would now. They're not learning easy words. You know, students know the words like answer and book and teacher and classroom. They're not easy words. They are highly frequent words. So what's my point? We've got to replicate the chance for students to see the words over and over again, so they don't even think about them. In fact, we call them, you may know this, we call them sight words, sight, like your sight. And that means you see them and you know immediately on sight what it means. There's no translation. You look at it, boom, you know it. Now that's absolutely, yeah, sight word. That's what readers give you, sight word memory, if you like. What does this mean? I haven't got time, I'll tell you. It means stop in Arabic. I don't know any Arabic. I went around Morocco for a week, looking out the car. Every time we stopped, I saw the sign. I thought it was quite interesting because of the shapes, and I was interested. If I'd seen the sign once, I would have forgotten. In 1 week, traveling around Morocco, teaching reading, I saw it hundreds of times, hundreds. Now I know it. Same I go to Turkey a lot. Okay, I accept this one has the English underneath. But the Turkish word chikish, I believe it's pronounced chukish. I didn't know how to pronounce it. And I don't even need the word exit, do I? Because I know where the exit is. I don't need a little word on top. If I'm going to go out the fire exit, I know where I'm going. But I know the Turkish word for chikish. The spelling is not even letters that I know. And all of this means that the repetition of exposure has made me know these things. That's all this is about. It's not complicated. What's complicated is asking of you as teachers to go back to your staff room with your colleagues to go, wait guys, don't we agree that reading has become a bit boring and they struggle? Yeah, well, that's how it is. No, I saw this guy talking about it. Charlotte from OUP. It's got to change, right? Why? Because if we see language all the time, don't we learn it faster? Yeah. Well, if we get graded readers and make them read just what they want, and then easily, this is what happens. Really? Yeah. Go and see the talks and look at Andy's links and Charlotte's links. Go and talk to Seed. Get some early readers. There's the Russian word. I know loads of words in different countries for stop and exit and cafe, you know, but that's not because I was taught. I don't know any Russian. I don't know how you pronounce that. I think it's stop, but anyway. And my parents, my lovely parents, they are 10 minutes away. They're 89, but not here, they're 85 here. They're 89 years old. Dad helped me learn French. He helped me to like it again because I didn't like the teacher. And I struggled. But my mum, lovely, lovely, clever woman, a nurse all her life, never learned German. I know German because I lived in Germany. I studied German. And because of my German, I became a language teacher in Germany. But this word, Umleitung, no time to do the workshop thing now. I'm going to tell you it means diversion. Diversion. The road is blocked or there's roadworks. We have to take a diversion. How many times did my parents travel to Germany, through Germany in their car to visit me as a teacher? Many times. I was there for like 4 years in Munich, okay? How many times did they see the word stop in German? Well, the word is stop, so not difficult. Umleitung? No. In fact, they used to think at the beginning it was a place in Germany because they said it's really big, this place, Umleitung. It's bigger than Berlin. You know, everyone, but it goes this way and then it's this way. And I go, no, it means diversion. Today, my mum knows this word. Why am I picking on my mum? She didn't try and learn German. She saw the word so often, the word taught itself to her. Repetition means the words teach themselves to the student. And we have to find a way, and extensive reading is the way. Exposure to input and frequency of input. So it's a missing piece. Going to move on now. You have to think, ask the students, as Charlotte said in the first part of this session today, you know, ask them what they want. Show them some covers of books you're thinking of getting for the school, but don't get the books you like. Ask them, do a survey. Don't even talk about books. Ask them what films they like. You may find, for example, one class doesn't even like horror. Not one person likes horror. I could be wrong, for example, but you've got Jekyll and Hyde for the next 3 months because you like it. We have to ask them. And that's about doing class reading together because there should be time to do some readers together, but don't make it difficult. Don't use it to teach grammar. Don't use it to teach new words. You're doing plenty of that in the course book. This is to get them enjoying a story. 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes per lesson, at the end to calm them down or at the beginning. Now, reading aloud is very important. This is a non-fiction series, by the way. I'm just demonstrating here that there's so many different titles to choose from, different topics. You cannot hope to have a student engaged with you if they don't like the topic and they can't understand it. And these are a series of beautiful books about real kids in different countries. So maybe a student doesn't want to read fiction. I totally accept that, and we have to accept that and say, well, look, here's a series of non-fiction. Where would you like to go? Which one? This is Turkey. This is Japan. Which country would you like to know about? Oh, I think Italy's nice. So I'm only saying that because Augusto is watching. And there's one for Italy. Okay. So you can go here. I think you should. Okay, you've got a link there to the graded readers resources. Superb. And you can do things like blurbs. You know, you could ask them to read the blurb. You know, the summary at the back of the book, and decide which cover it goes with. So you could show the cover. You probably want to read that right now. I don't really want to spend too much time reading everything on the slides. You can do it later. This is just a demonstration. Don't panic about reading this and listening to me. Just know that if you took some titles and like 3 titles and then put up 3 blurbs from the catalog, just copy and paste from the catalog, which has just been posted to you there, and ask the students a little activity. Which title goes with this blurb, do you think? You know, you've taken some action from the book. And all of this could be just about before you even start reading anything. You're getting the students interested. This is a picture and a text matching activity, which you can find in any course book. All I've done is I've replaced the course book activity with exactly the same activity, but using readers. Why? Well, it can do the job of comprehension with visuals, but also for students to think about which one would I like to read? Because this one's about pirates and treasure, this one's about a spy, and this one's Ebenezer Scrooge. They may know or not, but it's a Christmas story about ghosts. Now, there's 3 very different books, and you could have a show of hands, and you could have 3 groups. Oh, there you go. Now you've got 3 groups doing different stories, and the opportunities for speaking and presenting are are so many. I'm going to share resources on activities and show some now. Okay. And if you're really planning your lessons, and I hope you are for the year ahead, look at the topics you're doing in your course book for the next, I don't know, next 2 months or next year. Let this be something for next year where you get your readers now, get to know them, and then for next year you putting them alongside the topics of your course books. And for example, there's Treasure Island and Pirates. Well, that's about travel, isn't it? A little bit, and adventure. And you can be sure in your course books there's stuff about adventures and holidays, and you could have that reader. If you pick the low-level readers and they're short ones, you can get through the book in a week or two. They're not long. So if a student likes a book, great. If everyone understands it, that's great, because you're not going to push them too high with these. If they don't like it, they know from your lessons that soon this book will be finished, and then we're going to go on to another one. We do have to try and accommodate for different tastes, but by building this into your course book curriculum, you have a beautiful way to balance. And it does take time to rethink what you've been doing. If you agree with what we're saying, and I have to say I'm right, because the evidence of extensive reading as a powerful way to boost language learning, self-study learning, and the results of your students, all the evidence is there from many countries who've changed the way they teach, even if it's just one school. It works. So I have the decades of research behind it. You could get them to act it out. I could act it, and then the students could act it, together. The journey was comfortable until we met a terrible storm. You could read this out loud, and the students don't have to read just yet. They could be doing the action. Come on, guys. Oh, I wish I was there with you in this session. Come on, we want a terrible storm. A terrible journey. A ship was in danger from the strong wind. Okay. We went up and down. Come on, up and down. Anybody feeling seasick? Really, we bring the words off the page. Disaster. Come on, guys, repeat. Disaster. No, come on, it's awful. Bad news. Disaster. Disaster. Intonation. Boom, So look, you don't have to be like me, but we can up a little bit. It's not about reading, is it, at this point? It's about character and story and theme, atmosphere. And we could start to teach them that this is what happens in their head. All right. They want to know, yeah. What did Courtney do that was a nice move? I'll have to read that later. Okay. They can act it. When I woke up, it was light. Bright. I decided to get up. And what about the students who maybe feel a bit shy? Say, maybe you're feeling tied up by ropes. How do you feel if you're tied up? Okay, so we do what he does. Let's do what he does. So you get the students to follow the student. He feels great, or she feels fantastic. They're doing what I do. What would you do now? The ropes were everywhere. The ropes, even in my hair. What about that? Well, you got ropes in your hair. Okay, so you're not happy. Okay, so unhappy face. It doesn't have to be, let's read now. And there's a question at the end. There's 5 questions and then an essay. That's going to kill it. All right. Plenty of hard work to do in the course books. This is motivating them. And look, there's language all over the place. It's consolidating what you do. Now,
when I woke up, it was light.
That's the audio. Of course, all the LE books have audio free on their website. We've done dramatic reading. I don't want to do that. I'm going to miss out that, but I want to say very quickly, when you see a slide at the end and I send it to you, I think it's going to be tomorrow I'll send you. I don't believe, from my experience, that making students read out loud is useful. Some students love it. I'm talking about secondary now. If you're some primary kids like it, I suppose. There's always some who don't. Let me tell you, I represent the majority of students who hated reading aloud. And I think teachers like to do it because they think it's what you do at school, but there's no evidence that it works. It feels like the right thing, but it isn't. And we have to be really honest. Do all my students ask them ask for an anonymous survey. You don't have to write your names, kids. I want you to tell me, do you enjoy reading aloud, or would you prefer to read in your head? Ask them. Then you'll have the answer. Let's give them something of what makes them comfortable. If you make them read aloud, give them a chance to read the text first, to practice. Put them in little groups. Take a text and say, right, there's 6 paragraphs. You guys, group 1, your paragraph 1, right? Your paragraph 2, and you're really clear and say, we're going to do some reading aloud. Okay, but you're going to read three people at the same time so they can work together, not alone, standing up. Terrifying. Terrifying. Oh, but Andy, at school, nobody believes that that works. Here's my other thought. I think teachers, we like to really control the class, don't we? So when someone's reading out loud, they don't like it. They're certainly not enjoying the story. They want it over with as soon as possible. And the others aren't listening. What are they doing? They're either not listening because they're bored, you know, or taking the mickey. They're teasing their friend, or they're panicking because they're reading the next bit in case it's their turn. If you're really honest with yourself, the reading aloud thing doesn't really add up. Maybe you feel that's what you do, but let's challenge ourselves to be better and for our students to feel motivated. And finally, who reads aloud ever in life without preparation? Nobody. When do you ever get a text to read out loud in front of an audience and you're a teenager and say, read out loud now, no preparation? You've got no warning. It's like Russian roulette. I feel so sorry for the students who have to do it because I was that student. Nobody, priests read out loud and teachers, we read. Nobody else reads out, politicians. So unless your kids are in politician school, teacher training school, or priest school, that's it. And even they would read the text the night before. You see what I'm saying? All right, some activities before we finish. Get the students to pick their favorite scenes and draw, see if the students can guess the scene. Or maybe they can get the students to describe the scene. Maybe they can do it on a whiteboard. They can do it in groups. You don't have to be, doesn't have to be the Mona Lisa hanging in the Louvre. There you are, my friend. I knew I'd not forget. There's Gulliver's Travels. Go to YouTube. It's in the link. You'll see the scene and you can use that to elicit the very text that you read. Scaffold what they see. Use the contents of the LE Reader. There's chapter 1 to 6. So, Andy, what do I do? Boom, mix them up. Put them in groups. Guys, in this book, we saw the guy being shipwrecked. You saw the little people coming. What do you think is going to happen in the story? Here's the 6 chapter headings. Put them in the right order. And as we read through the next few days and 2 weeks, maybe maximum, we'll put them in the right order. Let's decide now and then see how you feel in a few days. There's the answer. Start with a cover. Always good with a cover. 39 steps. Anybody that's, have I got a little bit of extra time? Courtney, can I have another 10 minutes? Is that okay? Or do you want to all leave immediately and eat coffee and cake as I'd like to? Okay, I'm going to keep going. Yeah, ask the question. Thank you, okay with me. Courtney's fine. Feel free to leave, but the rest, more activities till you all think it's enough. Keep going, love it. Lisa, all right. Okay, so, and it's recorded, so well, no, don't leave, because I like to see you there. Yeah, what a picture. What a picture. Teenagers, boom. What, don't even keep the title in, just cut out the picture, stick it on the screen. Remote learning, remote teaching. No, I know it's not been a happy time, but there's an advantage. Now I can control what they see only on the camera, and they go, oh, what's he doing? He's driving. He drive. No, happening now. We've got some grammar, okay? Okay, what else? Like I said, if you prefer, brainstorm in French. The class will go dead if they think, oh, it's English. I got to speak English. I don't understand. I don't know. I could be wrong. French, 1 minute. Ideas. Write them down. Good. Now, what can we do to get the English? He's in a car. Is he in a field? Boom, boom. Should the teacher read first? No, I don't think so. I think that what we're doing here is scaffolding the story so students know the story. All right. But there's different ways in getting them to listen, but I want to just get them engaged, really. Or you can go straight into the middle of the book. Before we even read this book, show the picture. What student wouldn't want to know how this man found himself in this situation? How would you not want them to read? And you know what? I would follow this with the very text from the graded reader and let them see, if they were right, guessing how he found himself hanging from a tree branch over a river far below. And then when they've seen that text, and you've made sure it's easy, remember, we're not doing difficult things. This isn't a test. We want them to enjoy the story because the words are repeating. Okay, this is about repetition. Then they'll go back and read it. Most students will want to read this book. If they still hate the book, fine by me. Then we'll make sure we don't force them to do the same book for too long. Or you can say, okay, guys, this is just for today. We enjoyed it. We're going to do the story a little bit. But if it's another activity and nobody really likes it, think, okay, well, oh, 2 people liked it. Well, it's in my little library. Andy's book library, or the school has a bigger one. You can get the book out there. Brilliant. Okay. All right. Pictures are always great to get them reading, or combining them. How did this sequence turn out in the book? You can take a paragraph from the graded reader, chop it up, make a jigsaw activity. That's something there. Jigsaw, they have to put them the jumbled up texts all have to be put together in the right way to see if they were right. Stick them on the wall. They walk around trying to you can put numbers on them, and they have to give you the right order of numbers if they're stuck on the wall, if you want them to move around. Not at home, but you know what I mean. Or TV interviews. They read the book with you, and the things that happen, the characters could be interviewed on TV like a role play. Or you can do Here's the News. They have to do in groups, they could do a news report. And in the news today, a young woman who came home from a party without her shoe has found the love of her life. Cinderella, if you weren't sure. Okay, here is the news. Another picture, boom. What's she doing? What's she got? What's she found? Leave out the title, just clip the picture. Next page, what's the girl? Where is she? What's happening? What can you see? Or hide the picture. What do you remember? What do you remember? I'm going to stop sharing there. What do you remember from that picture? What was she doing? What was she wearing? What color? What was on here? How many shelves? What was the thing on you know what I mean? Okay, go back to the screen. Yeah, so here we go. What did she find? What is it? Pizza? No, it's not. It's not pizza. Go and read the book and you'll find out. What? Tell me. No, read the book. I can tell you today, in case you're wondering, it's a dinosaur egg, which you saw from the title, which is why I would hide the title. What does she do with the dinosaur egg? Well, it's obvious, isn't it? You put it in the oven. That's what you do with a dinosaur egg. Everybody knows that. And then, oh, we've got a story. But supposing I mix up all the pictures. Ellie graded readers have these lovely pictures across all their titles, and you can do so much with them. Everyone knows how to screenshot now. Screenshot the page, or you can take a picture, put it on the screen. And this is the sequence of 9 pictures for the story, and they're all jumbled up in this one. Sorry, they're jumbled up here, and this is the right order. So like the chapter titles, you could get them to figure out which ones would come first as we read the story. Could the students predict what's going to happen in the story? All right, really scaffolding the language that's coming. Stick the pictures on the wall, make them big. So for the next week, you could read this book in 1 week. If you think how many weeks you have with your students. If you pick enough short books that are easy, you could do, even if it's 1 book a week, that's about 20 books, isn't it? 20, 30 books. That's a lot of English to repeat, but loads of stories and so much content to work with that can go with your course book. All right. Treasure Island. You could work with the characters. Ellie's readers show the characters at the beginning, so you can ask the students to guess what they might be like, describing them. If I was with you in Paris, I could certainly, obviously, well, it doesn't have to be Paris, sorry, but I was thinking the shop is in Paris. I will happily go on tour in France and do workshops because that's what I do. And we can have them doing characters. I get the students to cut out the pictures, and we have little sticks from Costa Coffee and Starbucks, and we get them to do little role plays. How can you do a role play? Well, we've got dialogue in the text, so we can rewrite the dialogue so that we have a conversation. I'm going to try and finish quickly. We can take the pictures and take a little bit of text. So look, this looks like something out of a course book, doesn't it? But it's not. So if you're going to miss, you're thinking, well, I'm in a course book, we need to do the course book. Well, do you have to do all of it? Couldn't we just do what course books do and translate it to a very memorable story? I think you're getting the idea. I'm going to bombard you with some things and then send you lots of slides, all these slides, and where you can find activities for them. I've done 2 handouts as well, which I'll send you. One is lots of speaking activities like this to get them reading and speaking. And I've done another one full of writing activities. There's also an Ellie guide. If Augusto's there and wants to paste in, or Courtney, the guide, there is a free guide of activities on how to use readers with your students. Oh, what's this one I've done here? Yeah, jumbled up text, which picture goes with the right text, okay?
Yeah. I think that Courtney gave the address in the website where they can download the guide, both in English and French.
Thank you, Augusto. Many thanks. Merci bien. So here I've taken characters, and in my own teacher way, I found something they said. Could the students think who said what? You know, there's so many ways to play with it. There you go. There's a couple of pages from Scrooge, from A Christmas Carol, and I turn it into a little script. Well, the students do it for you. May I emphasize that? They go back in, they look for the dialogue, including some narration. So you get groups of 2 or 3, and they have to act it out. Now, that's much better than reading out loud. It's very supported, it's fun, memorable, and they've done some work beyond reading. We've done some speaking as well. Dramatic reading. Oh, they could just copy you. Imagine you've got your class. Repeat after me, guys. He picked up, this is Jekyll and Hyde, he picked up the test tube. He picked up, no, come on. Okay, and drank everything in it. Come on. You've got to be the actor, haven't you? Not every day, I get it. But we are trying to make them like books again. Keep the level low. Let them feel that this is more about the story and their response, and the repetition of language will give you all the help you need. There's lots of work that you can do. If you really want to give them language work, Ellie readers have all those sorts of pages and project ideas, linking them to films and the real world. I mean, that's what reading is. Real world. It's fiction, but fiction is always based around the lives that we know, and of course the lives we'll never know. That's the beauty of reading. And English is not a subject for school, it's a skill. It's not a subject. It's not a list of grammar lessons and lists of words. That's what happens if they don't read for fun in their classes. They'll think English was just a subject at school. It was difficult like everything else. It's not. It doesn't have to be. These pages will help them do sort of fairly traditional activities. And these are the handouts. I think I've got them on our website. If you email me, but I'll send them to Courtney. These are 2 worksheets. There's lots of ideas for students to read. Any reader, get the early catalogue, choose the level. So there's a mixture, keep the level low. If you do a class reader, 5 minutes every day, fine. They can have reading time on their own where they have their own chosen reader from your library. Maybe some silent reading. How do you know they're reading? You'll know. You know the ones who are reading. And you can, as I say, bring in activities. Tell me about your story. What's the best part? You'll know if they're reading. You know, what's it about? It's about a Jekyll and Hyde. Really? Okay. What happens at the end? Boom. They know or they don't know. I'm not trying to make them feel bad. I just want you to know. There's more ways to know if they're reading than just giving them essays and questions. On my website, I've recommended some non-ELT books because I read a lot about how teachers have helped themselves to be better teachers in not killing reading. These are 4 books. I put them on my website on extensive reading with resources. And I recommend that there because a lot of the things are so logical. What are we doing? Why are we killing reading? Readicide. That's a made up word. The man is a great writer about reading, about the good intentions of the best schools have killed reading. You know, we've got to change it. We've got to investigate and evaluate what we've done. And the resources are there. And the catalogues, Ellie's readers would be, you know, hundreds of books you can choose from. But I think it's even those books, you know, which I love those books, but they're in the wrong hands if students don't like them, didn't choose them, can't understand them, and have to do too many exercises. Get to know extensive reading. Google it. Google it. Go to ercentral.com. It's a free resource all about extensive reading, how to do it, choosing the books. It's a free resource. It's a thing, my friends. I know that I'm finishing now. I'm sorry for the extra time. Just realize how much I want to show you, but I am closing now with this gradedreaders.com website, which specializes more in their range of titles and the free guide that you can download. And I'm very willing to stick around for any questions, though I realize I've taken more time, and I apologize for that.
Andy, we did have one question here that I managed to fish out of the discussion box. Should the teacher read before the students when we were talking about reading out loud to help with the pronunciation?
I just realized I didn't share my screen, did I there? Did I share my screen with slides there as you went to the end?
Yeah, we can see your screen, yeah.
Okay. Did you see those slides as I was finishing these things? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I thought I didn't. Yeah. Is it all right? Regarding a teacher reading to the students, I personally believe there's lots of reasons that you should or shouldn't at certain points, depending on the activity. So here's an example. Why not do a reader? Pick a reader, ask them what they like. Okay. If you can get a majority on the topic, pick a reader from the catalogue, Ellie's readers, and pick the level below them. So this is not testing their comprehension. And at the beginning of the lesson, read to the students for 5 minutes from the story. Give it your best. No questions, and just what do you think? What do you feel? What's he going to do? Not correcting their English. It's not academic. Why would you do this? Well, those 5 minutes add up over a year, and a second year, and a third year. But we haven't got time. Well, maybe you have. Maybe if the benefits are huge, why would I not try it? We haven't tried it. Let's try it. And if you read for 5 minutes to the students, they can be maybe just listening to you, not reading. So maybe they have the book, but they're going to read after you've read it to them, and they can open it together. I realize there's another session to do on the difference between class reading with a teacher, class reading independently, and home reading independently. And that's something you can look at on the resources that I can send you. But if you read out loud to the students, they are exposed to the repetition that is in the readers. And I emphasize again, you must choose a reader that's below their level. We're not pushing them any harder than the course book does the pushing. This is freewheeling down the hill. We're not testing their English. We're giving them a story that lets them have words repeated, and the motivation is sky high. Now, if the students are weak, they'll be very happy. If the students are confident and good, they won't get bored, because in 5 minutes, you're going to get on with the lesson. You see what I mean? The research is there that students who come to primary school after their parents have read to them at night or whatever, have a huge advantage over the students who were unlucky not to have parents or guardians who read out loud to them before school. Reading to a child before school isn't just a nice thing to do, which it is, and about stories and fun and bonding. That's great. It's what parents don't realize who do this is they've exposed their child to millions of words over the course of a few years. Millions of words, literally. That gives the brain a huge advantage. Now imagine those students who never had that. You can be that very parent to read to them. And for those who have parents, well, you're also giving them a chance to show them in this classroom, reading easily is important. Otherwise, they leave school with the feeling, the message that reading is a difficult thing. English is difficult. You also send out the very clear message that no matter how busy we are, in my classes, my English classes, reading is important. It sends that message, all right. But you can do things where you're demonstrating, like I said, you can read out loud and they have to copy you. He saw, Dr. Frankenstein saw the monster walking towards him Oh no. Oh no. Come on, guys, louder. Oh no. Oh, he's scared. Oh no. So you can demonstrate pronunciation and they can copy you, which is fun. I hope that answers the question. If I haven't, tell me what I can do.
Very thorough. Thank you. We've got a couple more, and please, it's a lot easier to find them in the question and response box. But how can you keep motivated? This is from how can you keep your pupils motivated when you have them for only a year? For example, if you're a substitute teacher.
Well, I would say that it depends how much time you have with them as a substitute teacher. My feeling is, if you're a substitute teacher, I guess you may not have enough control over what the school has at your disposal for the classrooms. But if you are a substitute teacher and you find a way, okay, not by tomorrow, but take your time, you build up a bag of books. You have your own little bag of tricks. Wherever you go, if you've got a collection of books, I realize you're going to have to build up the collection. But anyway, that's one answer. Because then, no matter what class you've got, you can say to students, we've got some reading we can do. Or you can pick one. You can realize, oh my goodness, I've got the students for a year. What level are they? You work out the level. They're like A2. Right. I'm going to make sure that when I'm a substitute teacher, whatever lesson, I'm going to do easy reading with them. I'm going to read to them, and maybe I can encourage the school or the parents to buy one copy of the same book. Or, it depends on what you are allowed to do. But if you're a substitute teacher, I would suggest maybe don't buy a whole bag. Buy yourself, treat yourself to maybe 6 or 7 readers of a few levels that could be highly engaging topics. You'll have to take a chance, and then use the pictures and some of the activities I've shown you, and then I'm going to send you as what could be random activities to make them think about. You could use them for speaking activities. They could be game activities. You could take some texts that you think is the right level and do a dictation exercise. These are activities. So you'll see in all the activities how you might adapt them for your situation. Dictation is when you have the text. This is in the classrooms that aren't online. Students have a text on the wall. The same text is over there. The same text is over there. Very short, 3 or 4 lines. One student in a group of 3, they're all in groups of 3 or 4. One student goes to the wall, has to remember, and runs back to the others to dictate accurately with punctuation what's on the text. All right, the winner's the one with the perfect reproduction. So substitute teachers, yeah, well, email me if I can help you with something more specific, but the resources I'm going to show you will be more than you'll need to really adapt.
Okay, we've got, I have primary English readers at B1, B2 level. Are the Eli books at that level appropriate for primary children?
Yes and no. B1, B2 at primary, really? Wow, okay, great news there. They have a high level at primary. If they are really B1, B2, then make sure that the B1 readers are reading at A2 and that the B2 readers are reading at B1. Yeah, because this is not about pushing them, because I'm pretty sure you're probably using, for good reasons, the course book, which is hard, full of new language. Remember, we want them to repeat. And yes, if they are B1 and B2, encourage the students to read below their level. So they're reading for the story and their responses to the story, not their linguistic competence. All right. And make sure they're picking a topic they like. And if they read it easily and still don't like the story, do what we do in grown-up life, change it. What a wonderful habit to teach a student. If you don't like a book, you can give up if you want. If you want to really push your way to the end, like my
grab
wife,
another one afterwards.
Yeah, go. Yeah,
no, but great. If you stop the book,
There's
start another book.
Yeah.
How would you study a book? Would you do this over a period of time, or would you maybe choose a day of the week dedicated to reading activities, or 10 minutes at the beginning of each lesson?
Regarding graded readers, the general belief by extensive reading experts and my own instinct and experience of it is make readers a part of every lesson, even if it's only the one reader that you're reading out loud to them for 5 minutes. But also, an ideal situation is you've got a little library of books on the shelf, or they're working with the library, or they've got the school has allowed them to choose a book on their own from the library, there's a moment where you say for 5 minutes in the lesson, right guys, it's time to do your reading, take out your readers and get going. And that's your chance to go around and monitor them, especially read aloud. If you want to do read aloud, you've got a nice quiet one-to-one with Mary here, or Marie-Claude, and say, look, okay, Marie-Claude, try some reading out loud with me. She's not shy now, it's just you and her chatting. The class are doing their work. Okay, quiet over there, please. I'll be over there in a minute. That's it, that's how it works. Yeah, make them part, and as someone said, Charlotte said earlier, let them know that books are part of learning English, not if you like reading. That's it.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Any more
other questions before we?
I really want to say thank you to those who stuck around. You did. Most of you stuck around for the end.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I tell you what, I'm going to look at the chat later, and I'm going to come back with anyone who felt I missed your question, or if you felt that I should have picked up on something, I'm going to try and do that. I'm looking at questions. Any more questions on the Q&A?
I think I managed to get most of them.
Primary, can you help me get books for graded readers for my middle schools in my...
I will deal with that one.
Yeah, I think you caught all the Q&A.
I think so.
Well, you know, I think I just want to say that it's all about choice and changing what we do already. Remember what I said at the beginning. If we agree that despite the best efforts we make as teachers every day, despite being good teachers, students are still leaving school not enjoying reading, and especially in English, then there's something wrong and we have to fix it. And I can promise you, this is the answer, but it involves a steady change with some collaboration in your school and the slow building up of experience by doing it. Or, as I fear in many cases, many teachers go back thinking this was great, but I can't do it, in which case you'll have to accept the students won't change. But this is a changer. Merci beaucoup. Bisous to you. Jean, Jean, Jin.
All right.
Everybody.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Charlotte, who's no longer here anymore. And thank you all for coming. And again, yes, thank you for sticking around. I will send through a follow-up email with all of these links and everything. And I also hope to see you all next week and on the March 31st, the afternoon, and April 7th as well.
And everybody, sorry, Courtney, I just realized I didn't put it. Google, everyone, Google ER Central, Extensive Reading Central. That's it. You'll need, and take your time. Because
in the meantime, you all have my email if you have any questions regarding the webinars or books or anything. Really, I'm your go-to gal. So do get in touch, and I hope to see you all next week. And Andy, I will speak to you somewhere online, perhaps.
I'll get you my slides and links to send to everybody tomorrow. Okay.
Great.
Thank you, everybody. Once again.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Have a good day. Go get your kids. Bye.